You're in a room full of people. The conversation is moving fast, skipping across the surface of the latest news or workplace drama. You pause, look at the underlying pattern, and share a layered, meaningful thought about why it's actually happening. And then you get dead silence. People blink, someone clears their throat, and the conversation quickly pivots back to small talk. It is easy to walk away from these moments feeling like you misread the room, but psychology points to a different mechanism. That silence marks the exact moment your depth introduced a level of discomfort the room wasn't prepared to handle. This creates a strange contradiction. Society claims to value intellect. We celebrate historical geniuses and praise those who possess extraordinary mental processing power. We retroactively build monuments to individuals like Nikola Tesla, marveling at how far ahead of the curve their minds operated. Yet, in daily practice, individuals who consistently analyze, question, and look past the surface are frequently marginalized. Society rejects the psychological and biological friction that deep thinking creates in everyday life. To understand why average conversations feel exhausting for reflective individuals, we have to look at how the human brain manages its own resources. From an evolutionary standpoint, the brain is designed to be highly efficient. Processing millions of data points every day requires massive caloric output, so the mind relies on mental shortcuts to conserve energy and ensure daily survival. This schematic illustrates Kahneman's concept. A straight path represents System 1 thinking, fast, automatic, low effort, powering casual small talk. By contrast, System 2 is a complex, winding circuit. This highly effortful mode is how deep thinkers examine root causes. Instead of accepting a simple, familiar explanation, they ask what underlying biological, economic, or historical factors contributed to the outcome. They force the people around them to switch out of their automatic pilot and expend sustained mental effort. Average conversationalists avoid deep thinkers because they are being handed a heavy mental weight. They entered the interaction looking for light, effortless social validation, and were instead asked to perform heavy cognitive labor. The brain's desire to save energy explains the exhaustion, but the ego adds a layer of active defense. While we might admire physical strength or envy wealth, encountering a vastly deeper intellect triggers a unique psychological response. Intelligence feels intensely personal. Our beliefs, opinions, and worldviews are tightly woven into our identity. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. The mere presence of a deep thinker acts as an unyielding reflection of the other person's intellectual boundaries. When a thinker asks a probing question, it fractures the illusion of absolute certainty, exposing the unexamined assumptions of everyone else in the room. This graph of confidence versus knowledge reveals why communication breaks. Individuals with shallow understanding sit at the peak of absolute certainty. Meanwhile, deep thinkers, aware of complex variables, operate lower down in the valley of nuance, acknowledging multiple possibilities. In a fast-paced social setting, this dynamic leads to a tragic misinterpretation. The deep thinker's intellectual humility is viewed as weakness or indecisiveness, while the shallow thinker is rewarded for their blind, comfortable certainty. Scale this dynamic up to a group setting, and the stakes rise significantly. For millions of years, human survival depended heavily on tribal cohesion. Belonging to a group meant aligning with its collective rituals, beliefs, and hierarchies. Deep thinkers are inherently disruptive to this balance. Because they naturally question the status quo and point out logical inconsistencies, they introduce alternative perspectives that destabilize group consensus. The primitive amygdala registers this disruption as a direct threat to the tribe's safety. Faced with this subtle social ostracization, many deep thinkers choose to step back. There is a massive difference between anxiety-driven isolation and chosen solitude. While social anxiety is rooted in avoidance, the deep thinker's solitude is highly productive. People with a high need for cognition have a unique tolerance for cognitive incongruence. When they encounter conflicting information or ideas that don't quite add up, they sit with those contradictions, turning them over until they understand how the pieces fit together. They're withdrawing to secure the quiet, uninterrupted space necessary to process a highly complex reality. History proves that the marginalization of deep thinkers predates modern social media or shrinking attention spans. Across centuries, individuals who demanded depth were consistently pushed to the edges of the societies they lived in. In ancient Greece, Socrates was put on trial and executed, punished by his peers because his relentless questioning exposed the ignorance of those in power. Centuries later, Galileo Galilei faced house arrest and the threat of torture, silenced by institutions that preferred the comfort of an accepted illusion over the reality of the cosmos. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed this pattern and concluded that high intelligence brings a degree of isolation. The deep thinker perceives reality with an uncomfortable, unvarnished clarity, and that clarity distances them from the shared illusions that make daily life bearable for the majority. Today, the digital age has only amplified this distance. Algorithms are explicitly designed to reward speed, emotional outrage, and absolute simplicity. In an ecosystem optimized for immediate reactions, the deep thinker, who requires time to examine evidence and tolerate uncertainty, feels increasingly alienated. If you frequently find yourself on the periphery of these circles, understand that your isolation is the natural consequence of seeing further than the room is ready to look. True wisdom lies in maintaining your curiosity while building bridges of empathy to those around you. Keep analyzing, keep exploring, and keep asking the hard questions. The world might avoid the discomfort of your depth right now, but eventually it is going to need your answers.